Hello friends, bienvenidos. My name is Jen, aka Jen Kahlo on social media, your local witchy friend and intuitive guide through the occult. As always, my lovely husband and co-host is David, aka Premier Pulls on social media.
Hi everyone, on today's episode, Jen explains prayer.
Welcome to the show, grab a chair, make yourself at home. Jen's got stories to share, you'll never feel alone.
Oh man, Sunday, August is ending, huh?
Yeah, it is. And it is also a Sunday when we're recording this.
That's true, yeah. It's been a fun month. Obviously both our birthdays, which is really special.
Leo season's over now.
I had a great birthday. By the time we're recording this, it's been a week since my birthday, and it was really awesome. I had a great time, and I really enjoyed, just seeing friends and people that I hadn't seen in a really, really long time. But I do feel the shift, it's going into September. Like, Halloween is pretty much around the corner, and that's just like a huge shift in like energy and making us feel like fall weather. I'm not going to minimize how hot it's freaking been in Merced, because that would be a disservice to the sun. But I do feel like this summer has not been as unbearable as like last summer, which is nice.
Yeah, no, it's shown that like California has had one of the cooler summers since, I want to say, the 70s is what I saw. Mm-hmm. But what is your rule of thumb? Like, when is it Halloween season? Some people say after Labor Day. People have different rules of thumb.
Yeah, I think definitely after Labor Day, just like Christmas, right? Christmas is only one day out of the month, but you almost feel like a whole season, which is like a little more than a month. I think after Thanksgiving, for sure, like the Christmas season goes. I think like after Labor Day, things start to get into that fall kind of season and start, getting into that like winding down from the chaos of the summer, and getting that kind of cozy weather. So I'm looking forward to it, and super excited. Hopefully not too much rain coming up, because the rain is a little rough on us. But that's actually a good segue into today's episode with like, there's some people that pray for rain, and just kind of interesting. We haven't done an episode on prayer, which we did one, just kind of a callback to our meditation episode. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of overlap, but this is very specific to prayer, so we haven't really touched on that. So why don't you let us know what prayer is?
Yes, so we're going to look at prayer from like a sociological lens today.
Perfect.
So what is it? It's an address or a petition to God or the divine in word or thought. So according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, it's the cornerstone of all religions. All religions have some sort of prayer. And there are different types of prayers. There are also different like forms and techniques. They could be structured. They could be unstructured and spontaneous. So the 6 types of prayer that exist across all religions, different religions, are connection to the divine, which includes like enlightenment, confession, if someone wants to get something off their chest, intercession, which is pleading for others, like help so-and-so out, sacrifice or petition, when it's like, I've done this, can you please now do this for me, adoration, which is just like, thank you God or whoever for coming through. And then a funny one that I saw was called manipulation, which is basically what manifestation is. Okay. So, yeah, and manipulation sounds like a bad word.
Yeah, it has like a negative connotation.
It has a negative connotation, but it's not manipulation with a negative connotation. Manipulation, like to manipulate things to your will. So, yeah, manifestation has elements of prayer in it.
Yeah. Right off the bat, humans are a bunch of needy beings. I mean, we just fucking want. I think only one out of those 6 is adoration. Everything else has some sort of like tit for tat, some sort of like, let me ask for something. We're just greedy fucks, aren't we?
Well, sociologically speaking, and like from the research I was doing, a lot of more primitive or like low literacy societies, like back in the day, because there were some societies that developed like reading and writing before others, were more like food, safety, and
Like abundance.
Abundance, yeah.
No, that makes sense. And
Basic needs.
Yeah. We take reading language for granted, but it is more of a like modernistic practice. I think Aramaic may have been like the first written language. But having it industrialized, making sure that everybody in your society knows how to read, having access to literature, having access to linguistics, like that's definitely a newer like phenomena within humanity. I'm sure prayer goes back way before like industrialized or structured literature and or vocabulary, correct?
Yeah, but as soon as humans developed a sense of spirituality, they had prayer with it. Like the encyclopedia and all the sociological research I found that like without prayer you can't really have spirituality. Like it's a necessary component, and it could be different types. Like some religions only have you confess, and like there's no way you could beg for stuff, or other religions are like do what you want as long as you connect to the divine. But yeah, the first sort of forms of like prayer and divinity were like praying for rain, praying for a good harvest, praying for safety against like the lions, tigers, and bears, you know. So and
I just thought of like San Francisco.
Oh god. And that follows the trend, like a lot of folks that are like, I'm gonna pray for world peace. Unless you have your needs met, it's really hard to think of the needs of others. And that's not a selfish or manipulative thing, like we were saying, like we're gonna really remove the connotations from that. It's really just survival. Like, yeah, how can you pour into someone else when like you need your own stuff taken care of? It's just basic humanity. So yeah, there were some studies that found that people's prayers really depended on like how they were doing in life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you know, even with what you said, like the asking for world peace, prayer is an interesting part of religion and spirituality, right? Because you know, you take a God. I'm not even going to say like the Judeo-Christian God, but you take a God. A lot of those characteristics are like omniscient, right? So like they know what you need and / wants, and being all powerful. But it's interesting to have such an archaic form of like you still got to ask for it, because on a contextual sense of like if you believe in a God, you know, you're a human created in whatever image that God is, or whatever that God decided was what a human should be. This all-knowing, all-powerful God should know what your wants are and what your needs are, but as a human, you still have the duty to ask for it. So it seems almost like if you were to put God as a person, it's so... I mean, he would be... him, her, whatever deity it is, like, would definitely be somewhere on the DSM. Like, you know, you need to ask me for this, even though I could give it to you, you know?
Yeah.
It's in a fucked up way, just... We've been having so many conversations about kind of social services and have, like, these... And all these, you know, nonprofits that give benefits. Like, yes, they're doing a good thing, but sometimes the people who need the benefits have to run through so many hoops and so many obstacles. And I've seen it firsthand. Like, there are some social workers who, like, get a little bit of that, like...
God complex.
Yes, the God complex. Like, I have access to your services. And they'll be like, you need to ask for them, or you need to, like, really bend over backwards, or you need to, like, do it... put in this certain form at this certain time. And I think the juxtaposition from that, which we do as humans, to like now a godly presence is very interesting, because I mean, I don't believe in God. So prayer, gods, all were a construct of humans, right? So we as humans decided there's this godly being, and in order for us to get what we want, we have to ask for it. So we self-impose our own hurdles, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, and different religions will have different views on that. Like, there are some religions that are very, like, fate-based, where it's like, it doesn't matter how much pleading or begging you do, God is all-knowing, knows the beginning, middle, and end, and also knows what you want. So even praying for what you want, like, doesn't make sense. And then there are other cultures that are like, well, if you work hard for it, or it's very like labor and like earning based. Yeah, like if you work hard enough for it, then you can get it.
Yeah.
Which the Catholic Church is like that. That's like a big difference.
Pay to play.
Yes, it's very different between like Catholics and other types of Christians, because Christians are like, you're saved as soon as you accept Jesus. You don't need to do anything. Versus Catholics are like, you need to go through all the sacraments. You need to make sure that you do X, Y, Z in your life.
Continue to be a good Christian.
Yeah. There are different sacraments depending on like how long you live. Like once you're a young adult, you either get married and have children, or you join the church.
The priesthood,
like,
or the...
Yeah, those are the two roads, right? And then after that, it's like anointing of the sick, and then like the final blessing before you die. So there's like a bunch of stages. So it's very interesting.
I guess I want to take a little stab of what you said, and maybe we can elaborate more. On a kind of philosophical, almost nihilistic point of view, what would be the point of prayer if God has a grand plan, right? If, like you said, like God already has determined what your fate is in life, what would be the point of praying, quote unquote, if that's already been predetermined?
Again, it depends, like, sociologically, how you view God and gods. Like, for more, like, pan-Hellenistic sort of people, sort of like going back to our experience exchange with Vanna, like that religious system, gods don't interfere unless they are asked to. For example, like there are some religions, or even like the Norse pagan sort of religions, where in some religious structures God is not perfect. It's just like, I'm here and you're here in this clusterfuck. If you need me, holler at your boy.
And
you
if
know?
I'm available,
and if I feel like it, I'll do it. So there are some systems where like the divine is not perfect either. But I think going back to your question, which is very heavy, like, you know, Abrahamic, where it's like God is perfect, blah blah blah. Those are the same questions that I asked as a child, where I was like, well, if God knows what I want,
why do I need
to? Yeah.
And I get the devotion part of it, right? I mean, I don't agree with it, but I understand, like, this is an all-powerful metaphysical being. I need to devote my life and my spirituality to this being. I can understand that. And I think you agree with me. Like, why even ask for it if it's already been predetermined?
And one of the things that really, like, in my personal spiritual journey is, like, would a parent treat their child like this, you know?
Some parents might. I've seen a rise of that, of the, like, especially with the no contact. Like, why doesn't my kid talk to me? It's like, well, the shit you did, like, would you talk to you? And, you know, parents aren't gods. I know some parents might believe that they are. You know, they give life to their child, so that child owes them eternal, you know, gratefulness. But that's not how it works, right?
Side note, I think cults are so fascinating, and there are some cults where, like, the head of the family is like the cult leader. There are some high control groups where, like, the parents know more than the church, and then, like, the children, like, they learn this weird version of Christianity that aligns with, like, the father and the mother. It's so fascinating to see.
I like the ideology, though, of, like, the gods are imperfect, and also call back to our episode recently with Zia. Remember, she talked about that thing where, like, some people in Strega or in Italy, I don't remember specifically if it was Strega or like the old ways, but they would put their offerings away because that god wasn't coming through.
Yeah.
So they would say, like, well, you're not doing your fucking job, like Zeus, God, whatever, so I'm not going to give you my offerings. I'm not going to pray to you until you get your shit together, essentially. I like that. That's more like standing on business. Yeah,
so there are different forms of prayer depending on your belief system. Now with, like, I would say more new agey manifestation type stuff, like a prayer is a verbal talisman. Like when it's like you do the incantation, like, I don't know, as above so below, blessed be, come back to me 3 ways, whatever the fuck people say, like, that is also a form of prayer. Like, to say or even think something out loud, like you're trying to connect, whether it's to your higher self, whether it's what people call source, like whatever it is. Even if you practice unless you're a hardcore atheist and don't do jack shit spiritually, like if you do
that would be me.
If you go ahead.
I don't practice prayer, but I do practice meditation, and I think there's a good distinction for those two, right? It would have even been good to listen to our meditation episode, because now I'm trying to like remember what I said a year ago. But
well, it depends on the reason for meditation. If you're doing more new age, like to ground yourself, I wouldn't count that as prayer. But if you're trying to reach enlightenment, which is like a spiritual state, so you're trying to get somewhere spiritually, that is a form of prayer.
I see. Yeah. With prayer, and anytime you're asking for something, I think this is also where it gets really dangerous, the asking part of it, right? When you want something, especially that is not as tangible as like a capitalistic transaction of like, I have product A, I'm going to give you money for I'm going to give you money for a product and or service, right? With prayer, it's such a veiled line of like almost supernatural that you may not even be getting a product or a service. You just have to like hope and wish that what you're asking for is granted. Where I think it becomes very dangerous, and I'm sure you're probably going to talk about it, is like those people who are like, well, now you gotta like sow a seed, right? And like, in order for you to pray, you have to pay. So you gotta pay, especially those like evangelical religions. We talked about it during our speaking in tongues episode. A lot of them are like, give me money and something good will happen to you. Like, I'm the source, but without a cap. And that's how they put it. They're like, well, you wouldn't just put like a seed out. You'd have to water it and nourish it. So like, if you give money with your prayer, your tithe, then you're showing God like how really committed you are. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we talked to, going back to the 6 types of prayers, that's like sacrifice or petition, depending on how far you want to go. For example, like going back to our episode La Manda, where people in Latin America, specifically Mexico, practice like basically hurting themselves, like going on their knees for miles and miles and miles to like petition for something. I think there's a difference between like if you offer yourself to do something versus someone is asking you to do that. I think that's a very big difference. For example, my friend lost her dog at night, and the dog is like dark colored, so she could not find her dog. So she cried out and she prayed to this goddess, and she said, "Goddess, if you return my dog to me tonight, I will do XYZ." And immediately the dog came back, and she's like, fuck, I'm on the hook for this. But she's thankful, right, that the goddess in her eyes intervened and brought the doggy back.
I have 2 questions. First one, can you share what the XYZ was? And second, did they do it?
I don't know if I can share what the XYZ is, but it's like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
She is devoting a lot of time and money because she got her dog back. Let's just say that.
Okay.
She said something extreme, which I was like, girl.
All for feed with ice.
All for feed with ice.
No, I get it. I do a lot for Lucy.
Yeah, I would probably do the same thing for Lucy. Totally warranted as like doggy lovers. But what was the second part of your question?
Did they do it?
Oh yeah, she's still doing it.
Oh,
it's
shit.
like a multi-month thing.
My God.
But she did that to herself, right? She was like, I love my dog so much that I'm going to sign away all my Saturdays to this goddess.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
It's like a project.
This is the beautiful thing about being a skeptic, because I wouldn't have followed through. I would have been like, cool. That's it. But then I guess I wouldn't have asked the God to help me find my dog either.
Yeah,
so
you would have just done it yourself.
That's the difference.
Yeah. But versus like an institution or someone that has power over you saying like XYZ won't happen until you do XYZ. Those are very, very different concepts.
Yeah, it's so common though.
It is.
It's sad too, because these, I'll call them the mega churches, really are. I mean, I think to an extent all of them do it. When you go to mass and they pass around the bowl, when I was a kid, I would just like, I never had money on me, so my mom would give me like $1 or $2, just for the camp of it, the ritualistic part of it, and so you don't feel left out. But, even think of the psychology of that, right? You're not asking in private for people to donate. Like, if your being and your societal anchor is your church, specifically with the Catholic Church, and they're asking for the tithe in a public way, and you're the person who doesn't like put it, then that's really fucked up, right? And in that same note, like, the priest or the pastor is like, well, if you don't give, like, you know, you won't benefit or reap the rewards of whatever God. I remember the structure too within Catholicism. It was always the bowl first, and then after the prayer. So you could submit like a prayer, and then everybody would say like, today we're praying for Sister Maria to, you know, come off her like surgery, like, and I think that's planned, right?
Yeah. And as a kid, I always thought to myself, because people would like break change, so they would like grab 10. Yeah. I was always like, I wonder how many people like put in a 10 and took out a 20 type of thing.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about some interesting social media trends I see with prayer coming up right after this ad break. Today's episode is brought to you by us, Kythera Collective. If you've been vibing with the energy of the show, then you're going to love the Kythera Club over on Patreon. It's a space that I built for the cosmic, the curious, and the slightly chaotic. You know who you are. With 3 delicious tiers to choose from, we start with the chocolate level at $4 a month, which gains you access to weekly horoscopes and the exclusive Unhinged podcast, where I say things that don't make it to this main feed. It's sweet, it's spicy, and it's just for you. Next, we have the cafe level at $7 a month. This is where things really start to get cooking. You'll receive access to exclusive workshops, monthly virtual hangouts, and a private Discord community where you can chat directly with me and receive exclusive behind-the-scenes updates. It's magical, cozy, and a little unhinged in the best way. Finally, we have the tequila level. This is the VIP lounge. At $25 a month, you'll receive everything from the previous tiers, plus a personal 15-minute one-on-one session with myself or David each month, and discounts if you want to extend the session. It's a whole vibe and a powerful way to receive personalized guidance. So if you've been laughing along with us, crying or rage screaming in agreement, come hang out with us at the Kythera Club. Head over to patreon.com/JenCallo and choose your tier. If you want to sponsor an episode and advertise with us, go to our website, www.jencallo.com. All right, now back to the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. So I'm excited to talk about some interesting sort of like new age social media things that I'm seeing around prayer.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite thing to show or to sort of like throw back in somebody's face, if they're being rude to me first. If someone's not being rude, then I won't do this. But if
you let people live their own life.
Yeah. But if someone is being rude, then I'll just sort of use their own thing against them. But Matthew 6, 1 and 2 say, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. So when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets to be honored by others." So you see a lot of these like Christian edgelords like praying loudly outside of like a Planned Parenthood or like praying in front of a drag show. And then not only that, but like when they give, they stick a camera in people's faces, which I know is one of the things you hate, because just like as a full-blown atheist hate hypocrisy. And you're just like, if you're going to give, like, why do you need to film it? Yeah. I think it's different when people film and they very clearly say like the monetization from these videos like will be given to the next person, like the guy that takes the day laborers to Disneyland type of thing, or the guy that like buys out street vendors. He's very like, my Patreon, the money I make from this, like I put that into making future episodes and getting more street vendors like off the street and safe into their homes, at least for that week type of thing. Yeah. So I always like to point that out. However, there's always like really nice non-oppressive like maybe prayer circles going on. I know that Merced does sort of like an interfaith prayer, I think around the solstice times, and that's cool. You know, prayer can sometimes be like a public group thing or it could be a private thing, but more so
but that's different than putting it out there saying meet us here than going to the places that you know are just going to cause chaos and create tension, right? Mm-hmm. I don't justify it, but I think with the prayer part and like the religious kind of zealots, like in their mind they really do think they're saving you from like eternal damnation. So to an extent I understand where they're coming from, I don't think it's justified, and I think it's completely wrong. But that's also kind of the beauty of being human, right? They have the right to pray over you just as much as you have the right to reject that prayer or say, I don't believe in that. They might get upset about it, which they usually do, and condemn you to hell. But I mean, if that's not your cup of tea, then it really shouldn't affect you.
When I got surgery earlier this year, is my first time getting surgery, and the hospital has a chaplain, and the chaplain stopped by, and they were so cool. They were so chill. They were like, "What's your spirituality?" And I forget what I said, but I think
you said, "I'm a spiritual person, but I'm not a religious person."
Yeah, I think I said something like that. I was gonna be like, "I do this," but he was like, "Okay, well, do you mind, or would you like me to pray for you?" And at that point, I felt like it was more so like a positive, genuine energy exchange. So if someone is genuinely like praying to their God that I don't believe in and like wanting me to like benefit or be protected or whatever, I'll always accept that. So I told the chaplain yes, and it was very nice, and I felt very like that positive energy exchange, you know, even if we disagree on who or what
the
theological
part of it. Yeah. I had an interesting situation about a year ago. I was coming out of the gym, and I was like walking behind a girl, and she went through the door exiting into the parking lot, and then I was like behind her, and then she turned around and she looked at me, and I was like, whoa. And she's like, hey, like, I don't know why I'm getting a calling, but can I like pray for you? And I was just like,
she smelled the heathen on you.
Probably. She's like, is there something going on in your life where you think you need a prayer? And I was like, no, my life's pretty good.
I'm chill, bro.
I'm chilling. And I wasn't gonna be like an asshole, like you said, like leave me the fuck alone. But she ended up not praying for me. She just kind of walked away.
She said, fuck you.
She said, yeah. But it was interesting. She like, it was weird. She did like a complete 180 and was like, can I pray for you? And I was like, what the fuck type of energy or aura am I giving off that like they need to pray for a stranger? I might have had like a grumpy face on or something.
You just finished a workout.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, pero Spanish came out. But it was also like, damn, that takes some balls. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't go up to a stranger and be like, can I talk to you about Pokemon? Like, I don't know, like something I'm passionate about.
Our Lord and Savior Pikachu.
Our Lord and Savior, it's Arceus actually. But but even with like our podcast, like, right, I try not to be super like down your throat. If people ask, I'm always happy to share about like what I do. But even things that I'm super passionate about, I just going up to somebody in public and not pestering, but almost like pestering and saying, can I blank, 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 just seems like a really big, social stretch. But that girl did ask to pray for me, and I was like, okay. Like,
regardless of what you do, it's all about consent.
Yeah.
All about consent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wanted to get a little bit into the kind of physiological, psychological parts of prayer. I think because prayer has been so ubiquitous through society, and it's a huge, societal practice, there has been a lot of actual science behind the benefits or like the exchange of having a prayer. I think there has the scientific community is in agreement that having prayer does help in certain ways. It gives neuropath signals that have shown some benefits. I think for sure one thing that has been disproven is like there's not one God or one thing you can pray that gives you more benefit over another. I think it's just the act of prayer, which I think is always really, really interesting, right? So prayer to me is one of those things that I don't really have a problem with. I think I'd more come at you for getting a tarot reading than asking you to pray with me, which, being married to you, some people might be like, really? I do see tarot a little more in the like, definitely not real, there's no benefit. Whereas prayer, again, I think just putting yourself in that state of mind can be helpful for again the benefits of meditation, where it's like grounding, reflection, and those psychological like self-healing factors.
I'd like to challenge you on that because are you talking about like tarot for self or tarot with another person that you have a problem with?
I think a little bit of both, maybe. I just think the practice of, because tarot is very specific and prayer I think can be a little broader. So I think it's more the specificity of it, right? Any of those practices, egg reading, scrying, like to me, they don't really do anything and they don't provide the clarity or grounding that I would need as David. I'm not speaking for anybody else. Whereas with prayer, I think if I were to pray to a deity, just knowing who I am as a person, I would definitely start with like, I forget what the 6 types are, but the first one saying, thank you for all these wonderful things you've given me in my life. I am praying, though, however, for XYZ. So for me personally, I think that would have a more significant impact because it has those tools, reflection, grounding, goal setting. Like those are very instinctual to me, and I think I could better disseminate that through the act of praying. Whereas with tarot is very hyper specific to like you're utilizing this medium to forecast or see or even plan. Like it might not make sense, and it could just be a very specific thing to me. But I think I hold more stock in prayer than like any divination practice.
Okay, your original statement sounded like totalitarian, like this is like across the board, so that's how I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But I almost use tarot as a form of like reflection, grounding, and prayer because it helps me see like where am I now and like take inventory of the present. And tarot isn't always to divine in the future or forecast in the future. It could be about like what's happening here and now. Let me make sense of the here and now. And whether you do it with like somebody else or by yourself, it's a great, in my opinion, it's a great way to introspect and really focus on like your conscious thoughts, your subconscious thoughts, and reflect on how to move forward and how to let certain things go. Like if you're really stewing on something, like if you're angry or if you're sad, like it can help you make sense of like why you're feeling that way and then let it go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I see the benefit. I just think to me, once you turn it into something that's like a tangibility, it loses a lot of significance for me personally.
Interesting.
Yeah. I like the ideology of like keeping it more in the ethos and keeping it like it's kind of like a dream, right? Like in your dream world, you develop your dream world, you exact your subconscious into basically memory. But the moment you, I don't know, say there's like a device that lets you have like lucid dreaming or whatever, that I think that transfer into tangibility loses a lot of its like validity for me personally.
Interesting. Because for me, I feel like it helps because you see it in front of you and like
it's like not just it focuses it. No, I can absolutely see your point. I'm just talking like for me personally, and I'm not really a prayer believer either. So it's either or. If I were to have to like gun to my head choose which one, this is why I personally would choose prayer.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Another issue I have with prayer, and I think this is a big one for a lot of skeptics, is, when you need something that's super urgent and super big, and the example I'm thinking of is like surgery, right? Like, let's say somebody is, in an accident and needs like a life-saving surgery. If there's devout people in their family, sometimes they'll pray and say, please help my loved one get better. I pray over the hands of the surgeon, I pray over the doctors, and I do this. And then the person comes out not miraculous, they come out because of science, right? Because that surgeon, that doctor, that medical team interfered. And then the devout person says like, oh my gosh, do you see just that we prayed for it and our answers were were like answered. And to me, why it makes me upset is just because it discounts all the other stuff, like all the hard work of the surgeon, the doctor, the science. And it's like, I think it's more of a, it is me standing more on like a higher, like I'll even tell myself, like, get off your high horse. Like, it's not that serious, but it's like, you're discrediting so many people and so much research and time and saying because I prayed, this person came out, right?
It's like correlation is not causation.
Exactly. And then had this person died, like you don't say, well, I prayed and my prayer didn't come true. Then you say, well, it was God's plan. So like there's no winning, I guess. There's the circular thought process. And to me, I don't think that serves like a common good purpose for like a society. Now, this person's praying because that's how they cope with the tragedy. That's how they come to terms with something so horrific happening to a loved one. I'm gonna be the first one to be like, do whatever you need to do to make you feel better. I'll pray with you. You know, if somebody's like, I just need you to pray with me, I will do that with them. But then to turn around and completely discredit everything, I think is where I have a little bit of a problem with it. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with you. Like, it's not like because you prayed or because you didn't pray. There was this superstition. I don't know if it's like all Latinos, but in my household that like you do the sign of the cross before you start driving.
Yes.
And like, I think my family might just be different, but like if we got
No, I have friends who do that.
No, but I'm talking about this next part. Like if we got into an accident and we didn't do that, like my mom would very quickly be like, it's because you didn't do that. Like she would very quickly point to that as well. Yeah. But were you made to pray when you were younger?
No, I was never made to pray. I think there was a little bit of a time where we would pray before supper and just, you know, thank God for our meal and bless the hands that like created the meal, like just the ritualistic part of it. But I was never like made to do it. I don't know like my Hail Marys or my what's the other one? The
Our Father.
Our Father. Yeah, like I don't know them like to the T. But I grew up around it, so I kind of understand it, but I was never made to do it.
I know them both in English and Spanish.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah. For a long time, I prayed every night before I went to sleep. We would pray rosaries, of course, like on special holidays, funerals, stuff like that. But when I was a teenager, now I got really into Catholicism because I had no other like spiritual outlet. I prayed the rosary a fuck ton. And what's interesting is that Catholicism has like very heavy intercession, which is like that you can change the divine with your efforts. So that's why you pray to the saints. That's why you pray to Mary, so that they can like go to God and be like, hey God, please change your mind about this, which is very interesting because it's like it's God's plan, but God's plan can change because you made a prayer. Like that type of stuff is really, really fascinating to me. But as someone that had a lot of like anxiety around like hell and personal responsibility in Catholicism, with every pope, shit changes. Like purgatory exists, then it doesn't exist. Like it's so fascinating. But there was a prayer that like if you pray this specific prayer, like so like let's say 10 souls get freed from hell. And I was like, whoa, I thought like once you were sorted into categories in the afterlife, like that was it.
It's like Harry Potter. Once you're in your house, that's it.
Yeah. Or like the good place, you know? And so I was like, whoa. So I would pray that a lot. And I really felt like I was making a difference. And then the rosary is so fascinating because it's very similar to like Buddhist prayer beads or like a lot of different cultural prayer beads. It was modeled off of that but made like Catholic, but they have different prayers based on the season, based on the day of the week. Like super duper fascinating. I knew all of the variations from memory. I was like a hardcore rosary prayer.
And then specifically with Catholicism, I've always thought it was interesting both the arbitrary and then the exchange rate of like, you did this sin, pray so many Hail Marys. Like, can you maybe elaborate or give light on that a little bit?
Yeah. The priest is just like does this mental math and is like well, whatever their mental math is, like, you know, oh, you stole a candy bar, that's one Hail Mary. You fucked your neighbor's wife, maybe
that's half a Hail Mary.
maybe do 7 rosaries, and some community service. It's like it's almost like a judge where
it's like a sentence.
Like there are sentencing norms that the judge has discretion. It's like that for priests, you know?
Absolutely.
So yeah, it's so fascinating, but I prayed a lot. And I would say that I pray now, but my prayers are manipulative, as the encyclopedia says, because it's like I'm not praying necessarily for help, but I am verbally saying like I will achieve XYZ thing, you know?
Yeah. I have a couple more things related to prayer. One is really funny. I don't know if this was the same with you growing up. When there were times maybe like funerals or like Thanksgiving or Christmas when like the whole family would get together and we would do like a family prayer, and it's like, all right, everybody hold hands. Well, as kids, when my cousins and I, the most fun game was trying to make each other laugh. So we would fuck with each other. We would like, if we were holding hands, we would squeeze the other person's hand or like tap them on the back or like throw something at them. Like prayer was fun for us because the point was to like make the other person laugh and then make the adult get mad at that person. Like we could never take prayer seriously. Like even I think we were at a funeral one time and we were just trying to like make each other laugh, and it was fucked up because the implication of like laughing during prayer is horrible.
At
obviously.
a funeral.
Yeah, at a funeral or like at any. Well, you know, prayer is supposed to be sacred. So if you're there fucking laughing at prayer, like it's not great. But I do remember with my cousins, that was like the thing to do. Like, let's make each other laugh as much as we can. But I think that's common, right? Especially with like families who pray together.
Yeah.
Like the siblings are always kind of jabbing at each other. Did you ever have a situation like that during prayer groups or even at youth group or anything
No,
like
because
that?
I was also a very religious kid, and I took that shit seriously, you know?
Like you don't fuck with that. Yeah.
But I mean, we can notice a lot of interesting like loopholes with prayer and stuff, but ultimately I do think if you're not hurting anybody and it helps you get something off your chest, like, yeah, do it.
Yes, that's the key, not hurting. I had gone to a couple of like youth groups, and I think I even went to church one time. I've also noticed that public prayer is very passive aggressive, and there's like even in like the southern churches, that's how the ladies like drop their gossip. Like, all right, ladies, let's pray for Marianne. Like, hope that she like her STD like
cleared up.
So it's like it can be very manipulative, right? Like, and I had those feelings when I was the very few times I attended youth group, when like prayer came out, the youth pastor would come out and say like, you know, today we're praying for those who are lost. Like, you know, you may have tried drugs, or you may have tried alcohol, but like God is here to forgive you. So this is the time to pray. And like, it feels so manipulative. And like, luckily I was never caught up in the divine and feeling bad or thinking I'm going to go to hell. But for those people who are caught in that, that's dangerous, right?
Public prayer.
Yeah.
Even the Bible says don't do that shit.
Yeah. And then lastly, for me, one thing that I wanted to ask you is, what happens when the prayer is arbitrary? And do you think the people who engage in these types of prayers, which I'm going to explain, like lose the significance? So for example, in Catholicism, the Hail Marys, let's say you have to send 20 Hail Marys. Do you think by the 18th you're really thinking through like the action and the consequence, or you're just like, let me get through these fucking 20?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely not.
Okay, so that's one. And then the other one, and I don't know anybody, so if I'm misspeaking, like, I apologize. This is just what I've observed. I have noticed that in the Islamic community, Muslims pray multiple times a day, and there's like ritualistic parts to it. So they have to set their mat facing, I believe, Mecca, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong, but I think it's 4 times a day.
5
times a day. At what point does it go from like ritualistic and routine to like spiritual commitment? So do you think, you know, a Muslim who's been doing this all their life, on a random Tuesday, their 4th prayer of the day, they're as committed in each prayer, or does it also just become routine?
I am not sure. I would assume just as humans, like we get bored with routine. And like I could speak for myself as a Catholic, like if you're just saying it like memorization, like Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you, blah, 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 and you're just saying it and you're not even thinking about what you're saying, you're just saying it to say it, like, yeah, it does kind of lose meaning. And that's something that I, like, the priest would be like, no, really take the time to like think about the words, because the rosary, I think, says, if I can remember correctly, 50 Hail Marys or something like that.
There's 50 beads?
I want to say, like, I don't remember the number anymore, but it's something excessive like that. And so it's just like, I would take the time to be like, oh, I didn't really think of each word, I just said it, I have to go back. But I was also hardcore.
Yeah, so you would fix your mistakes.
Yeah, but most people are just like, pop, 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 pop. Like, okay, I did my 10. Yeah, so definitely, I think humans are just bound to, like, do it the easiest way possible. And that's, like,
the path of
just,
least resistance.
And just saying it and not thinking about it. Yeah.
Also interesting with the Hail Marys, like, prayer is supposed to be sacred, and it's supposed to be I don't want to say a covenant, but a communication between you and God. So when the Catholic Church imposes prayer on you, it almost is or does feel like a punishment. So how do you come to terms or reconcile that, like, prayer is sacred and holy, but then it's also used as a tool of, like, oppression?
Yeah, so I think having multiple prayers, like the 50 Hail Marys, is not, I don't think it started off as a bad thing. It was used as a way to meditate, sort of like when people do, like, Om over and over again.
Yeah.
I think that's, like, the original intent of having all the Hail Marys, to get in, like, a state of, like, being locked in and enlightened and meditating. But yeah, how we always say, regardless of the topic, if you're trying to impose your will on someone else, if you're trying to, like, control someone else, hurt someone else, like, that's the problem.
Yeah.
So I don't think, like, the rosary is a bad thing, because, like, when I was a Catholic, I found a lot of comfort in it. It was like saying Om over and over again. It was, like, very grounding, very meditative. But yeah, if, like, someone is telling you, you did something bad, now you have to do this, even if it was like, do 50 jumping jacks, not like 50 Hail Marys, just you do anything, like, you trying to control someone else or someone else trying to control you, is bad.
Yeah, behavior management without like explicit consent, right? Well, super informative episode. I'm surprised we hadn't done an episode on prayer. You know, overall, like I said, I'm not against it. I think out of many of the topics we've covered, prayer is one that I think, you know, like you said, no harm, no foul, but we did talk about some of the downfalls and dangers of prayer. But, you know, again, if somebody close to me was like, can you pray with me, or can I pray for you? I wouldn't be an asshole and be like, no, like, I don't believe in that. Like, get away from me. Yeah.
Well, yeah, very interesting episode. That's all we have to say about prayer, but we did get some comments for previous episodes.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so wildwillowco.krista on Instagram for the episode with Zia said, I love the vibe. So thank you for loving the vibe. We love your vibe too.
Yeah.
And then an anonymous person that DM'd on Instagram, also on the episode of Zia, said, this is a good interview and she's an interesting lady.
No, she really is. Yeah,
absolutely. Definitely agree. Speaking of Zia and Infinity Coven, I will be offering readings the Saturday and Sunday of September 6th and 7th at 447 Stockton Street, Infinity Coven. So you can schedule your appointment ahead of time if you know that you want to come in at a specific time, or walk in and see if you get lucky.
And mark your calendars, because you're already starting to fill up. You have a couple appointments lined up for that day already.
Yeah,
so.
I already have people pre-booking.
Awesome.
Definitely.
So if people do want to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
They can go on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or Blue Sky at Jen Kahlo and JenKahlo.com. And if you like the show, rate it and give us 5 stars wherever you are. And if you find it interesting, share it with a friend.
Awesome. All righty. Well, thank you so much for teaching me today about prayer.
Yes. Remember, the magic within you makes the world a more beautiful place. Blessed be, and signing off. Bye.